All right, we are rolling in 5, 4.
Hello, and welcome to the Teacher Think-Aloud podcast. We're your podcast hosts, Anna Chiriani Dean
And Shaylin Rio.
This is our pilot episode, an introduction to us and our aspirations for this podcast.
Let's tell everyone a little bit about how we met and birthed this podcast.
A podcast is born. So let's start with we met in New York City. I'd been living there for a few years and was working as an adjunct instructor at various institutions, shuttling from one university to another each day, and absolutely loving it. My main gig was working at Fordham University, teaching for the university's ESL program. Every semester, of course, started with a faculty meeting. So I walk into this one faculty meeting and I see this woman, one of the new hires, and she's just waltzing around in this gorgeous bohemian patterned skirt with dangling earrings and long hair. And I said to myself, I want to know that woman. She was just so vibrant and brilliant at her work.
It always makes me blush when Anna reminds me of her first impression of me.
Good thing our listeners can't see you blushing.
So, like any of the young people living in New York City, I am also a transplant. I grew up in Rhode Island, where I worked in various leadership roles in the world of ESL, dividing my time between the nonprofit sector and academia. I was 5 years into my career and burnt out already. So naturally, I did what every relentlessly optimistic 20-something does when feeling the need to get a fresh start. I moved to New York City.
Naturally.
It was here in the city that I learned what the phrase taxi teacher really meant, as I too spent my time shuttling from one end of Manhattan to the other, teaching at multiple unis, one of them being Fordham. And that's how we came to meet. I recall feeling crazy intimidated by Anna's poise, her quiet confidence, her seemingly never-ending list of spoken languages. Really, it's quite impressive. I knew that I needed to befriend this woman. I could learn so much from her. So I asked her to lunch.
Well, now I'm the one blushing. So we were both really passionate about our work and got involved in creating professional development opportunities for faculty in our department. And we hit it off right away.
We also got into some wine.
Yes, there was wine. But fast forward a little. I went abroad as an English language fellow for a year in Armenia.
And I had also been a fellow a few years prior in Argentina.
And we both had a lot of opportunities in our fellowships to provide teacher training and mentoring. Something that we found to be lacking for educators was opportunity to connect and reflect with other educators, to share their wealth of knowledge, learn from each other, pause to think. Everyone was just rushing around, trying to get through their day, their week, or their semester. And so one day I was thinking about what new projects I wanted to undertake that would be challenging and also beneficial to a broader audience of teachers than the ones in my immediate circle. And I remembered Shay had been thinking about a podcast for a while.
Yeah, so all of this was totally my idea.
It definitely was your idea.
So Anna writes me a text and boom, 1 week later, we're having our first brainstorming meeting.
And that's how this podcast was born.
So we are both specialists in international education, cross-cultural communication, and English language teaching. And we both come from the school of reflective pedagogy or reflective practice, pausing to reflect in our teaching and our students' learning to become better teachers in the future. Our primary purpose here is to create a reflective listening experience for teachers of the English language, and to build a community of educators around the world who unite behind a shared fervor for teaching and learning. We want this podcast to be a safe space for discussion. We won't lecture at you. Instead, we'll have a casual, fun conversation around questions and topics that interest you, backed by research and best practices in language education.
We invite you to check out our website at teacherthinkaloud.com and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at thinkaloud_pod and Facebook at Think-Aloud Podcast. On our website, you can submit your questions and experiences, and you can also sign up for our newsletter so that you never miss an episode. We're excited to have you as part of our international community of reflective teachers.
Thanks for joining us today on the Teacher Think Aloud podcast. Until next time, happy teaching.